It's a stage for local players to showcase their talents and skills, but has it lived up to its billing? We discuss the ups and downs of Chan in Matchpoint tonight. Hello and welcome to Matchpoint with all the latest sports news from Africa and beyond. I'm Lindy Mtongana. Also coming up this half hour.
Try to perform at the best level.
We have an exclusive interview with the World Athletics Body President, Lamine Diack. And Ghana's chess queen shares her love of the game. Now we start with football, and Uganda has progressed to the next round of the 2016 African Nations Championship qualifiers, knocking out Tanzania 4-1 on aggregate. Now the two sides played to a 1-1 draw in the second leg fixture in Uganda's capital, Kampala. Now Uganda had secured a 3-0 victory away in Tanzania and only needed a draw to advance. The visitors, on the other hand, had to score 4 to guarantee any progress. Tanzania showed great talent to overturn the first leg defeat and should have gone ahead with John Boko's header in the 18th minute. That goal would not stand as it was adjourned to have been offside. Now Tanzania took the lead just minutes into the second half, winning a penalty that John Boko comfortably fired low to put his side ahead. Later on, a substitute Keziron Kizito leveled to snuff out any hope for the Tanzanians. Uganda now face Sudan next.
We need to improve very much. Important is that we know where we are, we know what our problems are, and once we know where our problems are, we need to work on them, correct them, so that by 18th of July and first match away in Egypt, we are ready and competitive enough so that we could challenge Egypt in order to look to qualify even to final tournament to Senegal.
We scored the first goal. I mean, a reason known to the referee was disallowed. I don't know why. But I praise my boys, they played very well. And we trained only for 6 sessions, but this performance, otherwise if we could have given more time, we could have maybe a good result from today.
Well, now on Sunday, South Africa head into the second leg of their Chan qualifier against island minnows Mauritius, knowing that their 3-0 advantage from the first leg will more than likely be enough to see them comfortably into the next round. But after another 3 players withdrew from the squad, coach Shakes Mashaba has urged his inexperienced squad to focus on getting the job done this weekend. CS du Plessis now reports.
South Africa's national football team depart for Mauritius on Thursday morning, knowing that the job at hand is to leave the island with victory and secure a place in the next round of the Chan qualifiers. But despite the disruptions and the fact that only 17 players are available for selection, goalkeeper Jackson Mobokwane believes the squad is focused and ready for the plucky Islanders.
Yeah, we're feeling good. We're ready. We're preparing well. Of course, you'd think it's comfortable, but going away, it's always difficult playing away. You know, teams play different. In the African continent, you know, they play different playing away and at home. So obviously they'll attack, and we'll go in there prepared.
The Bafana stopper is expecting Mauritius to play like men possessed and knows that underestimating the men ranked 176 in the world can be dangerous.
The coach just made us aware that, you know what, guys, we're playing away, so those guys will come gun blazing from the start. You know, they'll have their fence behind them. And obviously they would like to break the record. I don't think they've beaten South Africa before. So they would like to make it a first time for them. So we won't take anything for granted.
The Mpumalanga Black Aces goalkeeper says that the instructions from the national coach have been clear and that the squad needs to perform on the day.
Obviously he said we must prepare ourselves, you know, for everything, penalties included as well. So we were really focused on it. Obviously we're going to win the game. You know, every game we play, we try to play to win. So that's the motive. He's just told us to go out there and make our mark.
Bafana go into the second leg of their Chan qualifier against Mauritius with a 3-0 advantage, knowing a single point will suffice to secure their progression into the next round, where they'll either meet Angola or Swaziland. Coach Shakes Mashaba won't mind facing the Palanca Negras, as it is a team that Bafana recently beat in Cape Town. CS du Plessis, CCTV, Johannesburg.
Well, for more on the African Nations Championship, which of course aims to give players plying their trade in domestic leagues more exposure, we're now joined by football analyst Abdul Musa from London. Now, Abdul, of course, as the competition continues and qualifying continues rather for the 4th edition, do you feel that the tournament is living up to its objectives? I mean, are countries really taking the competition seriously?
Well, I think most countries are taking the competition seriously. In the first edition, in 2009, we only had 8 nations participating, whereas now we have 16. I think for me that the African Nation Championship is a good tournament, especially for the nations who rely mainly on their home-based players, nations such as Uganda, Sudan, Libya, who won it recently. I think it's a good chance for them to compete for some continental silverware, whereas they might not be as fortunate in the African Cup of Nations. I also think that the Chan is a good opportunity for local based players to showcase their talent compared to normal domestic leagues that they play in week out. So I think that these are the objectives that Chan helps to fulfill.
Well, South Africa's had a few challenges in the lead up to all of this. And of course, I mean, they've been battling with players being released for duty to this competition. Do you think that perhaps this two-year format that the tournament follows, like AFCON, might need to be re-looked at and perhaps be changed?
Well, I think that this shouldn't be much of a problem. The same way clubs release their players for the AFCON, it should be for the Chan as well. I think it should be given the priority. At the moment, increasing the number of years between each edition is probably not good for the tournament. It probably decreases popularity and reputation. For me, Chan at the moment, it needs to cement its place in the African footballing calendar. So at the moment, maybe FAs can compromise with clubs to maybe decrease the number of domestic league games during the tournament. But I think overall, the Chan should be given the priority in this case.
Well, now let's take a look at a country like Egypt. It's one of those countries that has a rich domestic base. But since the inception of Chan, we haven't seen them do well in this competition. Why is this so?
With Egypt, it's a strange case. I mean, I think they only participated once in 2009 with an under-20 squad and didn't manage to qualify, which is a real shame because Egypt has probably one of the strongest leagues in Africa. And if they were to participate in Chan, maybe they would be one of the strongest favourites to win the tournament. I think it's maybe down to the prize money at the moment is not too appealing. Also, the reputation of the tournament at the moment. But it'd be really nice to see teams like Egypt participate in the future because they do really have a strong home-based squad.
All right, well, thanks for your insights, Abdul. Abdul Musa there speaking to us from London. Now let's turn to the women's game for a moment. And of course, the USA and defending champions Japan will meet in the FIFA Women's World Cup final on Sunday in Vancouver, Canada. Now, FIFA President Sepp Blatter had confirmed he would not be attending the final of the women's football showpiece. CCTV's Jonas Gilbert has those details.
In 48 hours, a World Cup champion will be crowned here in Vancouver as the United States tackle the defending champs from Japan in a rematch of the last World Cup final. But here in the host city on Friday, it was FIFA that was holding court as they tackled some of the key issues now impacting the women's game. One of the main topics that was addressed has been one that's been a theme of these games: equality. The choice to play the tournament on artificial turf was example number 1 heading in, and FIFA says they are studying the impact it had on players. But as the tournament played out, it became clear that a different inequality was also on display: the severe disparity in financial and structural support that countries are giving their women's programs.
In women's football, certainly we have to add other issues like society, financial resources, the treatment of women and women football in any country, which is different. So yes, it's true, there's a huge differences. We also have seen it here in the tournament. The top teams, the requirements they have, the investment they do, the number of people they bring to such a tournament has been quite different to some others. And I think FIFA really tries to work with all associations worldwide to make sure that gap doesn't get too big.
Earlier this week, the tournament was hit by the decision of World Football Supremo Sepp Blatter to not attend the final match here in Canada, a sign for many of the lack of support for the tournament at the highest levels of FIFA. The brass at Soccer Canada, though, chose to put a positive spin on the situation.
I'm happy that from a perspective of that the focus is on the 2 teams that are playing in the final, and even the 2 teams in the 3rd place, but more the 2 teams in the final. And as I said, I think whoever wins the Women's World Cup, whether it's me, you, or anybody else handing them their trophy, I'm not sure they're too bothered by it.
Also not bothered, apparently, were the fans, as Soccer Canada estimates that a record-setting 1.35 million of them took in the matches, while FIFA called this edition the best they've seen. And the host country now has a new target in its sights.
We will have hosted every FIFA major competition, youth, senior, men's, women's, except the Men's World Cup. So certainly when the bid guidelines come out, it's certainly worthwhile, incumbent upon us to take a look and review and see that you know, there is a potential in our country to host a Men's World Cup, pending what the bid guidelines would be.
The Women's World Cup may indeed have a ways to go before it can ever match the over-the-top grandeur of the men's equivalent. But what we've seen here in Canada this month, a 1/3 increase in the number of nations taking part, record-setting attendance, as well as overall improved play all across the board, certainly seems to hint at the fact that this game may just be in the best state it's ever been in. Reporting from the Women's World Cup in Canada, Jonas Gilbard, CCTV.
Well, time now for a quick break, but here's what's still to come on Matchpoint. Ethiopia's Genzebe Dibaba and Almaz Ayana battle it out in the Paris Diamond League tonight.
Be happy to see all of these athletes achieving their best and achieving the best for Rudisha.
And an exclusive interview with the World Athletics Body President Lamine Diack. Don't go away. Now, the 8th leg of the IAAF Diamond League is underway in Paris tonight. And with Jamaica's multiple Olympic and world champions missing in action, 2 Ethiopians are expected to grab headlines. World indoor champion Genzebe Dibaba and Almaz Ayana, the bronze medalists from the 2013 World Championships, go head-to-head in the 5,000 meter for the first time this year. Ayana is the fastest of the two with a personal best of 14 minutes, 14.32 seconds set in Shanghai this year, and has announced her intentions of going for the world record in Paris. Genzebe's personal best stands at 14 minutes, 18.84 seconds, and has already made an attempt at the world record this year in Eugene, where she fell way short of the mark. The world record stands at 14 minutes, 11.15 seconds, held by Genzebe's older sister, Tirunesh, who is on maternity leave this year. And it's just a few weeks to go to the World Athletics Championships in Beijing. But there'll be more than just athletics, as the current IAAF President Lamine Diack from Senegal will be stepping down after 16 years in charge. CCTV's Sadiq Shaban sat down with him for an exclusive interview, and he started by asking him about how the IAAF is preparing for this event. Here's the first part of that interview.
But I think preparations are going well. And we expect around between 200 and 208 countries participating out of the 214.
Mr. President, what would you say is the partnership between the IAAF and the people of China?
I have to confess to you that when I entered IAAF in 1976, China was out for 20 years. Because at that time, Taiwan was recognized as China. And the continental China was not in for 20 years. So one of my points was to have China back. And they came back in 78. But since then they are giving, and I think now we shall show that if we make our sport successful in China, it will be wonderful for the future. It's 1 billion, 500 million inhabitants. And if we succeed to have them in, is okay. I think, and they are moving in that direction.
The world still remembers, Mr. President, the 2008 Olympic Games at the Bird's Nest in Beijing. A lot of records fell. We saw big performances, especially in athletics. Is that dream still alive, going back to Beijing in 2015?
Absolutely. I think choosing Berlin, we remember that we have to repeat in this Bird's Nest Stadium what happened in 2008. It was really great. And Chinese was keen to have another good big event in this stadium. So we're very pleased to have this 2015, particularly myself, because it will be the time for me to say goodbye.
Do you think in Beijing 2015 we are likely to see a lot of records broken in athletics this year?
It's possible. Yeah, absolutely. I think it's possible. All our athletes are in this kind of competition are performing to make their best, and their best sometimes is the world record. I think, except in the long distance like 5,000, 10,000, the rest I will be very tactical. Don't expect any record to come from there, but sprinting, jumping, throwing, and so on, all of them will try to perform at their best level. And it can happen that some world records coming there.
Mr. President, this is your last year in charge of IAAF. There will be a lot of focus in Africa, even as you retire. Do you have favorite athletes, perhaps from Africa, whom you'd like to see there to bring your legacy down and just to cement the legacy from Africa?
Which one? I cannot say one of them. I will be happy to see all of these athletes achieving their best, and achieving the best for Rudisha. So not that it will be a world record if it achieves its best. I think we expect all of them to do their best and leave, in my memory, living to say, okay, at the end of the long way going, I arrived in the World Championship with Africa relay performing at the highest level in these World Championships.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, for speaking to CCTV.
Now, Zimbabwean football is facing a crisis, a financial one at that, and the Zimbabwean Football Association is trying to rescue things by appealing to the man on the street. ZIFA has launched a $1 for Football initiative, which is appealing to football fans to contribute $1 towards the beautiful game. CCTV's Farai Makutoya examines whether this plan will work.
The 12th man, often credited for giving the extra push that gets the national team past its opponents, is now being called on to support the team in an altogether different way. Through the pocket. The $1 for Football initiative is an ambitious plan cobbled up by the cash-strapped FA to help save the game.
Football is, quite honestly, very close to collapse. As the national team games come up, it's a huge financial burden, and Zimbabwe is coming very close to not fulfilling international fixtures, and as a result getting a ban from international football, which the public doesn't want because we all love football. So it is a noble idea in theory.
But can ZIFA, with its history of financial profligacy, make this plan come off?
Well, here's how this whole thing is supposed to work. Football fans deposit their funds directly into ZIFA's account. Their names are then published on the ZIFA website. A, for transparency and accountability. B, as appreciation. Now, I've been to the ZIFA website and I haven't seen any names there as yet.
That could be because there have been very few donors. Zimbabwe doesn't have a great record at crowdfunding.
Crowdfunding has been a model that has worked brilliantly in other markets, but really it's been the developed markets and not the emerging or developing countries where there are all these logistical or infrastructure issues to deal with first. So what usually happens is that someone announces that they're doing this and people identify with the cause and people share it on social media, on Facebook, on Twitter. But it picks up the first day or two, so maybe they raise $300 or $400, but then it dies soon enough.
That will make a minute dent on ZIFA's debt, which runs into millions. Zimbabwe's population is 14 million. So if just half of the country answered the call, then that would solve Zifa's problems. But it all hinges on trust.
If I give my dollar, is it going to go where I want it to go? Is it going to be accounted for? Is it going to be used wisely? These are questions that the public quite rightly have.
And so we put it to Zimbabweans.
It's hard for us to help. Where is the other money at Zifa going? We don't know what is happening, so I won't give them anything.
We know they were recently bailed out by Prophet Magaya, so they can't say they don't have money.
I think the best is for well-wishers to get in and help. So it will be in my interest to help my my sport, the sport that I love. Yeah, I will take part.
Clearly, the court of public opinion is still divided. Farai Mwakutuya, CCTV, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Cycling news now. Rohan Dennis rode the fastest individual time trial in the Tour de France history to claim victory at the opening stage of this year's race in Utrecht. The Australian rode 13.8 kilometers in just 14 minutes and 56 seconds at an average speed of 55.44 kilometers per hour to break a former Olympic champion Chris Boardman's previous record of 55.15 kilometers per hour over a 7.2 kilometer prologue in 1994. Now, German Tony Martin came 5 seconds behind and second of the top 4 contenders for overall victory at the 21-stage race, which ends in Paris on the 26th of July, is defending champion Vincenzo Nibali, who placed highest in 22nd, who finished 43 seconds behind Dennis. Now, time for a short break. Here's what's coming up next. Ghana's chess queen shares her love of the game.
He's a speedster and he's very solid indeed.
David Rudisha, 1:40.91 is shown on the clock.
Wimbledon news. Roger Federer showed that you need more in your arsenal than a bullet serve if you want to seriously trouble the grass court masters. He snuffed out the threat of Sam Groth in 4 sets at Wimbledon on Saturday. Groth, who holds the record for the fastest ever delivery in tennis, launched missiles but only briefly threatened Federer's progress to the 4th round. Federer was in no mood to let his stranglehold slip. He broke for a 2-duck lead in the 4th and did it again to close out the match. Dustin Brown matched out of Wimbledon in a 4-set defeat by Victor Troicki after beating 2-times champion Rafael Nadal. Ghana's been hosting West Africa's top chess talent this week. 30 players are battling for a cash prize in the 5th edition of the President's Cup. We caught up with Ghana's #1 seed, Angela Ayuku, to find out what she loves about the game.
I like to think about chess as a metaphor for life. You make a bad move in the beginning and then it haunts you later. And you find yourself spending your whole time trying to cover up for that small wrongdoing or mistake that you made in the past. My name is Angela Nameli Ayiku, and I'm the #1 ranked female chess player in Ghana. I learned chess from my cousins at home. It looked quite difficult, but then after a while, it became so simple in my eyes. Chess helps me to analyze problems. It helps in problem shooting. It helps in problem solving. It helps you to simplify problems in the sense that you meet complicated positions on the board every day. But as a chess player, you can't just throw your hands up in the air and say, okay, that's it. You have to solve it. You're forced to. So chess in a way trains me in problem solving. It also gives me the zeal not to give up and fight, because chess is like a big daddy. It trains you well, to be better. There are not many ladies that play chess in Ghana. Most of our players are men. There's a perception, a general perception in Ghana that the men are way better than the females. And so losing to a female hurts their ego. And that even makes them more nervous when they're playing females. When I'm playing a guy, I'm more eager to win the game than with a woman because I feel I have a point to prove. So beating a man is proof that we can also beat them. I mean, we're equals.
Well, let's go to the south of Africa now, where the Botswana 1000 Desert Race, which is organized by the Four-Wheel Drive Club of Southern Africa, is slowly gaining popularity in the region. The event, which is part of the Donaldson cross-country competition, did not disappoint, as both fans and drivers got their fair share of the thrill.
It's a dusty but thrilling race. This is the Botswana 1000 Desert Race. Set in the Kalahari Desert, the race invites many fans, and this year's wasn't any different.
The race was really fun, and I had a lot of adventure. Being able to meet friends from a long time and seeing different car models actually perform, and you can see cars which are, you say the Nissans and Toyota, and what's others? Yeah, being able to see how the strength of different car models. And so overall, the experience was awesome.
The three-day event, sponsored by Toyota, is actually the third round of the Donaldson Cross Country Championship. Despite some fuel challenges during this year's race, the event still had its flair, especially among some of the drivers.
It's the first time for me doing this desert because it's the first time I'm old enough. I'm 60 now. So it was a real good experience. The sand and everything is something new. But I really enjoyed it a lot. The first I came second in my class and 7th overall. Today was a bit of a problem with the fuel, but we'll sort it out. But overall it was a really good race.
And with the competition's growing popularity across Africa, this might just be the race that dethrones the Dakar Rally. But that's according to the organizers. Leslie Murungu, CCTV.
Well, that's it for this edition of Matchpoint. Thanks for watching. We leave you with images of the move of the week and action from the Copa America Championship. Goodbye.